Hey everyone, Ilan here, and I'm really excited about today because I have a good friend of mine, Nicky, here. And Nicky and I connected after I made the Gillette ad. And he has an incredibly powerful story about what he went through with his own divorce and his own kind of fight for custody of his children. And it really kind of tapped into the core value of many of the issues that I have touched on throughout making these videos about the importance of fatherhood, celebrating fatherhood, and what goes on in the courts with fathers a lot of the time, and the disparity there that we see in terms of custody. So I decided to bring him on today. Nicky and I, in full transparency, are writing a film together about this very subject, about custody for fathers, and it's a touching story based to some extent on, or relatively closely on, Nicky's own experience. So he's the expert behind the story. So I figured it would be great to bring him on. So Nicky, thank you for coming on today. I know this is a subject that's extremely important to you. And so I figure if you want to just give a little background about yourself and your own story, that would be an awesome way to start off.
Ilan, it's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Let me tell you a bit about my story. My family and I are Christians from Iran. We left Iran originally in 1980 after the Islamic Revolution and just a month before the Iran-Iraq War started. We came to the West. We've always been so grateful for the chance to live in a free society and to be able to pursue our dreams and to not have to worry about the fact that our religion might be different from the prevailing orthodoxy. And that was very important to my family, and it's been very important to me. Partway along the way, I got married to a wonderful woman that I fell in love with. And like many men, that marriage didn't last. After 7 years of marriage, my wife, seemingly out of the blue, decided that she didn't want to be married to me anymore. And it was an absolute shock for me. I didn't see it coming. In retrospect, perhaps I should have, but I really didn't see it coming. And there was a few things that I learned as a result of going through this process. But one of the things that became super clear is that the court system was definitely biased against men. And in particular, it was biased against minority men from the Middle East. One of the things that her lawyer had her talk about as part of the separation and divorce proceedings is she was nervous and scared that I might take the kids back to Iran, or my one son back to Iran, as part of the process. And that, frankly, had the court basically say, oh, well, then we can't give him custody. We got to keep him away and all that other good stuff. So here's what happened. Out of the blue, I got hit up with these divorce papers, with these separation and divorce papers. And as part of that process, the first thing I had to do was I had to go and get myself some representation to help me navigate through this. And I did get some representation. Here's what I found out super quickly. I didn't really have many rights going for me. In fact, everything was on her side. She had complete custody at that time, and she had the right to come after me for child support and alimony, although in Canada they call it spousal support, not alimony. And that just blew me away. And it was an entire process to go through that court situation and be able to fight for the right to be able to keep my kids. Now, the good news is, at the end of the day, I was able to negotiate 50-50 custody with my kids. She and I managed to overcome our differences to the point right now where we get along very well. In fact, we've gone on vacation together with the kids, including my new lady. And that's pretty amazing, but that's not the norm for most folks. And I can tell you right now, Ilan, that if there's a man who's listening to this and he's either gone through this or is in the process of going through this, I'll tell you that I can relate and empathize with what you're going through or what you have gone through. And I'd really love to delve into it here today to give them hope and to also show them that, it's possible for them as men to get their balls back and be able to be a powerful father for their children. And even if they're never going to get back together with their wives, be able to be powerful in life so they can succeed in work and succeed in getting into a new relationship if that's what's in the cards for them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy how it turned out for you. I mean, I know that one of the most important things is, and we've talked about this, is kind of the lows you reached when you were going through all this. And there's a lot more to this story. I'm not touching on it right now, and neither is Nicky. And maybe in the film, that'll all be all being
Revealed.
out there and being open. But it's it's a very hard story, and especially what you went through and some of the bias you experienced in the court, bias that many men experience and that we've touched on. And I know it motivated you to help other men and to go out there and help find ways for other men to gain back their. A lot of men lose their confidence, they lose their kind of focal point for life. I know you reached very low lows. There's a significant correlation between high suicide rates after men lose custody of their children. We know that suicide rates are high among men already,
Yes.
significantly higher than among women, and that there's a huge correlation there, which shows an underlying need for men to be with their children. What do you feel created that social stigma that kind of devalues fathers and devalues the role of fathers to the point where we have men literally killing themselves because they can't be with their own kids, and yet the
Yeah.
courts are still biased?
I'll tell you, there was a period of time where I didn't have access to my children, that I considered it for myself. I mean, I didn't go to the point of actually doing anything about it, but the thought went through my mind, and not just in a fleeting way either. Thank God I had the presence of mind to call some friends of mine, and they said, "Get over here right now," and I did, and they were able to help lift my spirits a little bit, so that wasn't a thought going through my head anymore. But I can tell you, my friend, the reason's very simple. The reason is that as men, we need our kids, and we're absolutely necessary in our children's lives. And over the last 60 years, there's been a concerted effort by certain groups to basically say, hey, fathers aren't necessary. A woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle, and kids don't need their dads. But studies show that that's absolutely untrue. If you study the work of Warren Farrell, who wrote the book The Boy Crisis with Dr. John Gray, of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus fame, the statistics are staggering. Children with fathers involved in their lives do so much better than children without fathers involved in their lives by exponential factors. So, for example, children with fathers involved in their lives do way better than those without fathers in their lives when it comes to schooling, right? The dropout rate is 12 times what it is for children with fathers involved in their lives for those without fathers involved in their lives. The suicide rate is exponentially higher, especially among boys. And the recidivism of kids getting involved in crime and in gangs and reoffending is way, way, way higher for children without fathers in their lives, especially boys without fathers in their lives.
Yeah,
And
20.
none of this was even a blip on the radar prior to 1965, because prior to that time, most families stayed together, right? Fathers were involved in their children's lives. It's just been since 65 that we've got a preponderance of children who don't have their dads around. There's over 50 million kids in the United States alone that do not have their fathers around for at least half the time. That's a staggering statistic. And, it scares me and it makes me weep for the future of our children, because they're going to be dealing with the negative impact of this for the rest of their lives. And what kind of example does this set for them to be able to be in relationships that last? The example that they had in their life was that, hey, when things get tough, let's break up. Is that going to set them up to be able to overcome difficulties in their own relationships and keep their own families together? Or frankly, to be able to overcome difficulties when they're going after their goals in life? So the first time they encounter a big obstacle, okay, that's it. I'm quitting on my dream. Forget it. I'm out. These are the things that happen as a result of society saying, hey, you know what? Fathers are superfluous. And nothing could be further from the truth. Fathers are absolutely necessary. They're super necessary for boys, because they give boys the opportunity to learn from them how they can be a successful man in life. And they're super necessary for girls, because girls are going to model the kind of man that they're going to end up with based on their father, either in a positive or negative way. In a positive, when they say, I want a man just like dear old dad, or in a negative way when they say, I don't want a man like that, I'm going to get a man that's just the opposite of him. Either way, it's super important for fathers to be involved in their children's lives to set them up for success as they grow through life.
Oh man, Nicky, your passion it's so important because it's something that's so lacking nowadays for men speaking up in this way. I mean, just to touch on those statistics, you're saying since the 60s, there's been this concerted effort. I have to agree fully. There, in the African American community, the rate of fatherless households went from 20% or 25% to roughly 70 to 75%. And you
Yep.
saw in that time a massive change in the rate of graduation, of dropouts, of increasing criminal activity. And same for the white community. This is not race specific. It went from 5% to 25%. It's happening across all races. And in that same group, you saw the same spike. So this is not about race. This is not about identity politics. It's about starting to come back to a society that appreciates fatherhoods. And the number one problem we have right now in homes with boys is not too much masculinity, like so many narratives put out there. It's a lack of masculinity
That's
because
right.
what they need in the house is a positive male role model. Otherwise, they'll go out and they'll look for it elsewhere. Um, in terms of the tools and things, let's say there's men watching right now going through this, right? There's men who are at the bottom of the barrel, right? Like where you were, where they just feel like they have no options, nothing to do. I know you said there's, you've helped men kind of get back to a place where they feel like they can live their lives again. It's for some of these men, they see no light at the end of the tunnel. They don't see that they'll ever be able to be with their kids again. Do you have a message of kind of hope for them, or do you have tools you can give them, or anything right now that might be able to give those men just some kind of positive outlook for the future?
Absolutely. So the first thing I want to tell them is you got to remember that you are a man. And as a man, you're part of that glorious gender that created and built the world. Within you lies the heart of a lion, a badass, a warrior, a bad mofo. You got to remember that. And you got to hang around people that bring that out in you. So no more hanging around dullards or deadbeats. Okay. Go find a group of men that are going to bring that on you. Now, I have a small group of men. We're looking to grow it a little bit. I'm happy to talk to any man who'd like to have a conversation with me. This is me giving my time out to people, and I'll give you a link that you can put in your show notes, Ilan, to give to men so they can get on a call with me. I know I charge people for my coaching, but this is an absolutely free conversation. We'll do this to help you guys out. And there are also tons of other groups out there that help men. There's something called the Good Dad Project, Larry Hagner. There's something called the Order of Man, created by a man by the name of Ryan Mickler. You got to check these guys out. You got to check out the podcasts that they run and the programs that they run. But as for myself, I'm telling you, every man needs to understand and believe in his greatness and his warriorhood and his badassery. And then if you come from that, you're going to get resourceful and you're going to find a way. And you got to have men around you that are going to stand for you rather than having men around you that are going to be drinking, soy lattes at freaking Starbucks with little skull caps on their head. Not skull caps. I'm sorry. What do they call those? The beanies, the beanie hats. I've got one of these. I'm in Canada. I don't wear them normally, but here's my little beanie hat. And they got that little soy boy beard, okay, going on too. You don't want to be around guys like that. You want to be around badass, muscular mofos like Ilan Srulovitz and Nicky Billou. They're going to call forth the best in you and send you out into battle as the warrior that you are. And make no bones about it. Fighting for your kids is an honorable battle, a battle with fighting. The great Elon Musk said that if there's a battle that's worth fighting, you must fight it, even if the odds are not in your favor. I'm going to repeat that. If there's a battle worth fighting, you must fight it, even if the odds are not in your favor. Elon Musk said that, and he is so right. And the fight for your children, for custody of your children, for being there for them, for helping raise them, for helping elevate them, that is an honorable battle worth fighting, and every man worth his salt must fight that battle.
Thank you, Nicky. I mean, you had me laughing there a little bit with the soy boy stuff, but all jokes aside, I think it's absolutely important for people to have a very positive circle around them. And that's when you get down on yourself, when you get depressed, and we've all been there. I'm not ashamed to say it. I've been at a very, very low, and you subconsciously surround yourself with people who may feed that.
Yes.
And it's really, really important wherever you are today. Two things. Don't isolate yourself from the world. You're going through this. It's hard, but don't close yourself off from the world and shut down, because that's not a good place to be. And number two, don't surround yourself by people who don't lift you up, exactly like you just said, Nicky. And I don't care if they're men or women, outside of gender. If you have a group of people who are supporting you, who are there by your side, who are helping you get to the place where you can fight this battle, where you can be with your children again, then that's all you need. And so it's so important to find that support group. Something actually super interesting, and it kind of segues into another subject, is that there aren't many kind of avenues for men to seek out this kind of help that don't get attacked or don't get broken down. I was working with an organization and they got so vilified and like if there were some men who were very hurt in that group who had gone onto forums. They weren't in the leaders of the group. They weren't like necessarily representing the group in any way. They just went and had said bad stuff, and it was wrong, and the group itself denounced all of it. But it didn't matter, just because one man inside of the group had made a comment, who was also on a public forum somewhere else, that it represented all the men in the group, and then the group was vilified. And so it's so hard. We're held to a standard in many of these situations that is impossible. And so surround yourself with the right people, the people who are going to lift you up, and the people who are going to kind of get you to where you need to be. In terms of what happened after you said you had started helping men, did it become like a major part of your life, or
It did. It did. So I want to address what you said about having the right people in your life. You're absolutely right. I mean, two of the people that were instrumental in me being able to get through this were my mother and a good friend of mine who's like a big sister to me. Her name's Linda. And those two stood for me more than anybody at the beginning. So there's no question you need that. And frankly, I think if we're ever going to move to a space where men and women are going to be treated equally by our society, and these nefarious forces that are trying to basically destroy their self-identity and self-belief are to be defeated, we're going to need good women to stand for the men, as well as needing good men to stand for the women. But make no mistake about it, men need men and women need women. Men need to have a circle of men, the kind of men they can have man conversations with, and women need to have a circle of women, the kind of women they can have women conversations with. There are things they talk about that, quite frankly, I have no idea what the heck they're talking about. I have nothing to add to the conversation, and they need other women who understand their way of thinking and can really help guide them. And the same is true for us as men. And I think that's super, super, super important.
Yeah, having a bond of brothers, or a band of brothers,
Band of brothers.
but that you have a bond with a group of men that you can relate to is unbelievably important in society. And it's not something that you should be embarrassed to seek out.
No.
Or that should be vilified, nor should it be vilified that women want to seek out other women to have these bonds with.
And honestly, the vilifiers, they better watch it, man, because they're starting to tick off a lot of people. And there's going to be a time when the vilifiers are going to be vilified. And the way that they're going to be vilified is going to be a way they're not going to like, because they're not as emotionally strong as the people they're vilifying.
There's something that you said that I very much liked, which was that good men help raise up good women, and good women help raise up good men. I think that's often a point that's very, very much forgotten, is that when we put fathers in the house, we're not just helping the men, we're helping the women. And when we celebrate the idea that, let's say a marriage sadly doesn't work out, Jordan Peterson has gotten a lot of heat for this, but he said it's always better if people stay together. Now, if they can't, and they didn't work on those problems early enough in their relationship to get to a point where they have to separate, that's fine. But it's always better than that the males stay as part of the picture. The father stays part of the picture, not just for the man, but for the mother too, for the children. And so we raise each other up. It's not, and I hate that when I put out that Gillette ad, it was very interesting that people came, the counter Gillette ad through Egard. It was interesting that people came and said, how dare you deny these women's issues? How dare you tear down women? My ad never mentioned women. We're able to talk about these problems independently of each other. There's a lot of things that women go through which have to be addressed. There's a lot of things that men go through which have to be addressed. But by fixing the issues with each, you raise the other one up. And I wish there were just more messages like that, more messages of it's good for women to help men, because we raise men up and then we raise women up, exactly as you said.
100%, brother. We have to do that. And honestly, like I say, the people who are trying to divide us and tear us down, I think they're nefarious. I think they're doing it for a reason. We don't need to get into that right now here on this podcast, because that's not the point of this conversation. But that's the truth. They're doing it for a reason. Traditionally, the conquerors of old, what they would do if they wanted to conquer a people is they would pit them against each other. Divide and conquer is as old as time itself. It's happening right now. People need to get smart about it. Don't let these folks divide you. Don't let them separate men and women. Bring men and women together. Bring black and white together. Bring Asian and Latin American together. We're all one human family, man. And here, especially in the West, we have been privilege to be in a society where freedom is valued, and a person's worth is not judged by their ethnic background, their religious background, the color of their skin, or their gender. It's judged by who they are as a human being. It's judged by the content of their character. To quote the great Martin Luther King, "I long for a day where in this country, my children will be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." And that's the truth. That's what we, you and I, and people like us need to continue to promote. And the vilifiers, man, we gotta just keep standing up and laughing at them and mocking them, because eventually they're gonna tire themselves out. And frankly, like I said, if they keep doing this, that giant with the terrible resolve is gonna come after them, and they're not gonna like it.
Well, I agree with you. I think you can only, you push people. And this obsession with identity politics, as you just put it, is so counter to many of the heroes traditionally in history. And it's so odd right now to be in a place where I watch daily on the news from our biggest politicians, strong pushes for identity politics, for victimhood. And again, these are not things that should be political. These are not issues that should be political. The idea of celebrating each other as individuals, the idea of lifting each other up, of unity. And sadly, they really have become very political. And it's because people are playing us against each other, I believe, as you said.
They are doing that on purpose in order to win power. It's that simple.
Because the average person loves another person. I mean, we don't go out spending our day being like, I'm going to hate that person. We don't go out of our way to hate each other. You know what I mean?
No, we don't. Look, you're Iraqi. I'm Iranian, right? I love you. You're fantastic. So what?
No, I don't care. I don't care. But that's it. But now today we're being taught to care much. And so all these problems, a lot of these problems with men stem from that. I always say that the problems surrounding the narrative around men ties directly into the hierarchy of identity politics. It's all the same, very kind of malicious idea. I wouldn't say malicious ideology, because many of the people who subscribe to it genuinely believe they're doing the right thing. But there's certain elites out there, or whoever, that definitely have nefarious intention, I believe, by playing these kind of pitting us against each other. Is there anything you want to end on, Nicky?
Yeah, there is. So listen, if you're going through this right now, definitely jump on a phone call with me. You can go to my website, ecircleacademy.com/appointment, ecircleacademy.com/appointment. Just say you were listening to me on Ilan's show, and I'll jump on the phone with you. So make sure that you do that. That's number one. And number two is, remember, you are a man, which means that within you beats the heart of a lion, a warrior, and a badass. You just temporarily forgot. And Ilan and I, we're just here to remind you of who you really are. So make sure that you act in accordance with your highest nature. And if you're a woman listening to this, kudos to you for doing so. You are a lioness, a warrioress, and a badassess. And you need to remember that about yourself as well. And you need to remember that the kind of woman that you are attracts the right kind of man, and support your man in being the best version of himself.
Thank you, Nicky. And I just want to say, I absolutely agree. And thank you to all the tremendous support we've had when we put out these messages from women as well, because you're exactly right. We get a lot of responses from men who are in that broken place, but we get a ton, even more, from women who are there saying, we want to support, we want to go out and see. So you're right. They are lionesses. Deep down inside, every man is a lion. And I love that you brought light to it today. And I think a lot of people watching are going to be proud to hear that. They're going to have needed to hear it. So hopefully it hits someone the right way at the right time. Thank you, Nicky. And
thank you, Ilan. Thanks for having me on.
Let people know about your podcast.
Yeah, I've got a really cool podcast. Ilan, you've been a guest, and you're going to be a guest on it again. It's called The Thought Leader Revolution, and it's a business podcast. And basically, it's all about helping you become professionally famous within the work that you do, so you become sought after. You're able to serve more people, to grow your business, and make more money, and make a bigger dent in the universe. So absolutely go check out the podcast. And Ilan's going to be on again on that show real soon, so check out his episode.
Thanks so much, Nick.